Building shelves for your work van? Where do you even start? Well, in this part 3 of the 6-part Handyman work van build series, we're tackling the real meat and potatoes, the shelving. Hey, I'm Matt with the Handy Manual, and if you've stuck with us so far, you've seen how to install the flooring and how to install the wall framing. Now that we have a skeleton to build off of, this is where things really start to get interesting. My goal with this series is to show you how to build all the components of your work van setup so there's less figuring it out by yourself. It's so critical to have a tool management system for your own peace of mind and to look more professional to your clients. In this video, I'm going to share one of the best products for organizing your inventory and supplies. And be sure to stick around to the end of the video where I share with you a bonus tip for organizing your tools. Are you ready? Let's jump into the build.
So the first step we have is to design the shelf system. So here you want to ask, what are your needs? What would an ideal shelf system look like for you? Plan out the whole left and right side of the van. Now there's so many ways to approach this, but it's important to make it your own. Make sure you have an idea of what you plan to store in there and leave some extra room for future tools and equipment you might purchase. Another thing to keep in mind is once the shelves are built, do you want dividers on them for further organization, or do you want something that's more open concept for bulkier items? I suggest making the dados in the shelves just so you have the option to further organize your tools and supplies as needed. You can always remove them in the future. To give you some insight into how I designed my shelving system, I wanted my shelves to be comprised of 3 sections, a section for deep storage for inventory and supplies, and I would access this less frequently, so I put it closer towards the cab area. And in this section, I built around the acro bins, which I use to store my supplies. If you haven't heard about these or seen these before, they're so versatile. They come in all different shapes and sizes. They're made of durable plastic. They can be stacked and locked into each other, and you can buy label cards that slot into the front. And they're highly portable, so you can take them with you on the job. The next 2 sections were closer to the rear of the van, so I could access them more easily. And this consisted of upper storage to keep tool manuals, extra caulking tubes, shop towels, scrap drywall panels, and other miscellaneous items. And I created dados to slot in dividers as needed every 3 inches or so. The third section was directly below this, where I planned to keep larger tools like my shop vac, a 5-gallon bucket, tool bag, job site radio, and bags of drywall mud. This third section was the most accessible, and I can access most of the tools without having to get in the van. Now I'm actually planning on making a major modification to the current left side of my van shelves, and I'll record that process for a future video. That should be a good one. Step number 2, build it. So now that we have the foundation laid, it's time to bring your ideas to the cargo area and start laying it out and recording measurements. Record what you need starting at the rear of the van and moving inward towards the cab partition. Next, you might be wondering, how deep should I make the shelves? How high? Well, I have a few metrics on how to approach that. So what I recommend is a minimum of 12 inches, but not more than 15 inches. In the next video, we'll be building drawers, so you want to leave room for those and have space left over for a center aisle. The total height inside the E250 is about 48 inches, so I went ahead and built my shelves and drawers to a height of 42 inches. I wanted a little bit of play from the top of the shelves to the ceiling to be able to store things like scrap wood and to be able to slide in sheet goods to not clutter up the center aisle. Now this channel wouldn't be able to grow without your support, so if you're getting some value out of this video, I'd love it if you could hit the like button, and if you're interested in more content like this, consider subscribing. So to get into the kind of nitty-gritty of my shelf system, my system comprises of 2 components, essentially uprights and lateral pieces. I have 3 upright sections, each 13 inches deep by 42 inches high. And for the joinery, I made dados and glued and screwed the core components. With that said, I drilled pocket holes along the sides and bottoms of the uprights to be able to attach them to the framed wall panel and the floor. For each end upright, I rabbited the top edges so that the top lateral piece could sit in there snug. The top lateral spanned over all the sections I had, but for the span over the second section, I dadoed the underside to be able to slot in dividers. I did this for the bottom lateral of the second section too. The dividers are spaced about every 3 inches. For the third section, I installed a shelf midway between the bottom of the second section and the floor. And for the first section, where I kept my acro bins, I built 5 lateral shelves for the bins to sit on, and these shelves slotted into dados cut out of the uprights on either side. Step number 3, install it. Now that all the components are built, it's time to install everything in the van. I attached the uprights and laterals to the wall framing and floor using 1¼ inch pocket screws. For the top lateral piece that sat in the rabbet on the uprights, I used Gorilla Glue construction adhesive and 1¼ inch drywall screws to join them together. Once the basic structure is in place, it's time to do minor tweaks as well as to make things secure in transit. For example, on the edge of the shelves for the first section, I installed a lip and screwed the acro bins to that lip to keep them from sliding around. For the second section, I built a swing-up door to keep the contents of the drawer in place. This swing-up door itself was held in place with magnets for easy opening. On the edge of the shelves for the third section, I also installed a lip to prevent tools from falling off in transit. Now I want to share a bonus tip with you, and that's to utilize the open space on the faces of the outside uprights for storage of quick grab tools like a handsaw, a hammer, or just some general PPE like you can see here. And with that, the shelves are complete.
Hey, I hope you enjoyed part 3 of this build on how to construct everything in your van. We're really making progress now. It's rewarding to see things really taking shape, and hopefully by now you have a good percentage of tools in storage and a system for keeping your inventory. Don't miss the next video in the series where I show you step by step how to build the drawers so you can store more tools and supplies. If you haven't already, check out the first 2 videos here of installing the flooring and the wall framing. Those are the critical first steps in the build. Thanks for watching, take care and be well.